We're talking the Anthony Joshua Molina fight today. So we want to know your opinion. Who will win on Saturday between Anthony Joshua and Eric Molina? Will it be at Anthony F. Joshua or will it be at TDB Boxing? We would love to know your thoughts on that poll. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further now with the former junior middleweight world boxing champion, a former guest of mine on my other podcast, The Best in the World with Richard Barham, and I'm absolutely delighted to say that joining us this morning on Sportacino is Paul Silky Jones. Good morning, Paul. How are you doing today?
Morning, Richard. Very well, thank you.
Oh, well, it's so great to have you on Sportacino. So, huge fight this Saturday, Anthony Joshua versus Eric Molina. Joshua's 17 fights unbeaten now. He's also his second title defense. Are we expecting this to be a pretty easy fight for him and that'll just lead up to the next fight with Klitschko? Or should we be expecting a little bit more from Molina?
We'd like to expect a little bit more from Molina, but I think it's a routine defense for Anthony Joshua. I can't really see the fight going further than the first 5 rounds. Anthony Joshua is very clinical. He's obviously very strong, so I can see him, doing the job very early.
Yeah, I think Molina says the only way that he's going to be able to beat Joshua is if he knocks him out, that he wouldn't be able to last kind of a full 12 rounds fight. There's talk of, he's 34 years old. When you say that, at 34 years old, does age really play a difference? Is that something that does matter when you're a boxer, or are you in just a prime physical condition? Because, you've had people throughout the years, Bernard Hopkins, George Foreman, they fought pretty late. Does age really matter?
Yes, age does matter, wear and tear on your body, but I mean, at 34, it's not very old for a heavyweight these days. So, Molina's obviously putting the excuses down already.
Yeah, I think he is. But it's funny though, because for me, we're going to talk about Chisora and Wyatt and everything which happened in the press conference in just a moment, but what I like about Anthony Joshua is he comes across as a real ambassador for the sport. And, I was just reading earlier today that Eric Molina, in his spare time, he works with disabled children. And that's something he's going to do after boxing. So for me, this is almost like a fight of two good guys. Can that still provide interest? Does it need to be as nasty as, say, something like you've seen with Chisora, or can we get invested in what I'd consider two nice guys?
Two nice guys is always good. Well, we still want to see how Anthony Joshua is going to progress, so there's still interest. But when there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, from a commercial point of view, it sells tickets.
It certainly does. Well, let's talk a little bit about Chisora and Dillian Whyte. What did you make of the press conference earlier this week?
Well, I mean, on Chisora's side of things, it was probably a bit of bravado. I mean, it's distasteful for boxing, but we know for a fact it's just, pushed the pay-per-view sales sky high, probably.
Yeah. Was it real for you, or was it literally just a way of pushing the pay-per-view tickets? Or is Chisora that kind of red-headed character where it was real?
I mean, Chisora has shown in the past that he's, done several things outside the ring what have got him into trouble. So it is a normal Chisora behaviour. But for me, I would probably take it just the way Dillian took it. With a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I think so too. Was the punishment enough? The fight is now not going to be for the British heavyweight title yet. However, it's still an eliminator for the WBC world title to be the challenger for that. Chisora got £25,000 in fines and he got £5,000 in costs. I'm thinking that must be a pretty expensive table if that table's £5,000 though. But was that enough of a punishment that the eliminator wasn't taken away as well?
I don't think it was. I think it's like having a naughty kid and saying you can't go out to play, but you can still go to the birthday party you're going to. You know, the message is not clear really. It's a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah, so perhaps the British Board of Boxing Control needs to do a little bit more. And when I think of that kind of, I'm going to call it nonsense, that press conference nonsense, and I've compared it on this show before to WWE. Of course, you got Bellew and you got David Haye fighting again soon. It seems pretty similar to that, doesn't it? I expect we'll probably get the same in the press conferences when those two meet.
Yeah, I mean we've already seen David Haye and Tony Bellew come to blows or almost come to blows, some physical contact. So yeah, we're also expecting that kind of behaviour. But you know, there's also the winners and the promoters and you know the ticket sales. So in a roundabout fashion, the governing bodies don't want to come down too hard.
You know, I guess when they're fighting against the likes of UFC and other sports for those viewers, I guess they need to do what they can for the publicity. Let's talk about actually in the ring. You know, there's all that nonsense outside. How good is Chisora these days? Does he stand a chance in this fight?
I don't think he has the ambition to really push himself. You know, Dillian's still an up and coming fighter. He's you know looking to fight for the world title, so I believe he'll go on and steamroll. Well, when I say steamroll, I mean
Sorry, Paul. I think we're losing you right now. If we, I think we're losing Paul right now. Paul, can you hear me? Are you still there?
yes, I can hear
We
you.
lost you.
Yes.
We lost you briefly there at the end of Dillian White. Let's just move on then. Let's move to Katie Taylor. She's fighting again. She's facing Vivian Obenhoff, and yet it's only 2 weeks since she beat Karina Kopinska, the Polish star. That seems quite a quick turnaround for a fighter. Normally, you know, they're 2-3 fights, maybe a year max. How difficult will that be to go into another fight quite so quickly, Paul?
I don't think it'd be difficult at all. Realistically, if you look at a lot of up and coming prospects, that's the kind of turnaround they do have. When you get to the 2 and 3 times a year, that's when you've already, you know, won a title, say a world title, and you know you defend 3 times a year. But it's a normal thing if you look at all the prospects way back in history. That's the kind of turnaround they've always had, and that's the kind of work ethic she'd have as an amateur.
Yeah, I think Conor Benn is doing something similar, fighting that regularly. So yeah, we've got Katie Taylor. How difficult can that transition be from amateur to professional, Paul?
You know, some people take to it more than others. I think she's doing a great job. She showed in the first win. She adapted to it very quickly. So I don't think there's going to be a problem. You know, sometimes you just have to slow your work down and pick your shots more. But she seems to be really taking to the professional game.
Yeah, there was talk about the US wanting to see the fight in America. Of course, they've got a huge Irish following back there. It'd be great to see if she can win. Do you expect her to just get through this fight against Vivian Obenhoff pretty easily?
Yeah, I do. I suspect she'll probably finish it very early.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's all on Saturday. Sky Sports box office in the UK, on many other channels around the world. Paul, it's been so great to get your thoughts this morning on Sportacino, on this huge card. Paul, just before you go, why don't you give us a reminder of how we can follow you on social media and mention anything else you'd like to promote this morning, please?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, P Silky Jones. Also on Facebook, Paul Silky Jones. LinkedIn for the business side of things, Paul Silky Jones.
Perfect. Well, I'm already following you. I'm already connected, and this is a great person to follow for top boxing knowledge. And also go back and listen to my full interview with Paul on the Best in the World podcast, where we learn about his amazing story and career as a world champion boxer. It is the former WBO junior middleweight world champion, Paul Silky Jones. Thanks for being on Sportacino.
Thank you, Richard.